Hello? Hello? Yeah, hi, Marcin. Yeah, hi, team. Could you please confirm if I'm audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Uh, so yeah, Tim, actually, I would like to ask one query. So how you guys actually proceeding for work group 3 review? I saw there's a one chat from you in the Slack that tomorrow you'd be doing one review, right?
Yeah, so I think what we said out of the last RX meeting was when you have use cases that are ready for the RX group to review, right?
Hmm?
Just announce that, of course, on your channel, but also on the network automation and the network architecture channels and the
Okay.
release and the SIG release. So
Okay.
so you basically blast it out, right? but it lets people know that it's ready for view, so that way they, being network automation and SIG release, can have a chance to look at it before the meeting, right? So that's why we were
Okay.
trying to do it. And we were trying to do that a couple days in advance, right? So it's
Yeah.
probably not, so if you're trying to do it for Friday, you could try, but it may be, you may not have people have time to review it. So we were trying to do that by Wednesday. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure, Tim.
Okay.
Thank you for this information. Okay, yeah, we are just waiting for another 2 minutes so that other folks could also join, and we'll just start in another 1 minute. Okay, so let's wait for a minute. Oh, sorry, I was talking on the mute. So already we crossed the 3 minutes. So let's begin our today's discussion. So today is 25th January, and we are discussing on the topics of work group 5 around the service assurance, observability, and the policies. So today I have planned the following items. I hope my screen is visible to everyone. So
it is, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So for today's discussion, actually, I have put two items. The first one is the user story review on the service assurance loop. So actually, this week we got a comment from the SIG one that now we should be ready with our user story, and in the work group 3 meetings we should review it. So I just compiled all our previous discussion and I try to summarize on this user stories. So we'll go through it. And the second item that is from I think from Marcin, like he wanted to discuss on how what are the requirement for observability, like how service assurance depends on observability should expose the API, or how the service assurance depends on the observability. So we'll try to go to this item after the first. So let's start this user story. So I compiled all our previous discussion. So I have prepared this document. And yeah, please feel free to stop me anytime, and we will discuss those aspects. Okay. So the feature overview, I have prepared, like the service assurance is actually the requirement to fulfill the day two requirements for any NF. And here we are proposing to build a generic framework which will help us to ensure reliability, performance, and adaptability of telecom network. Like we all know that, right? It is a very the telecom networks, like requirements change very frequently, and also there are QoS related SLAs. So in order to meet it, we need a certain kind of modifications, and keep on we need to either scale or reconfigure our NFs, right? So this here I'm proposing to have a generic platform. So over that we can derive the multiple use cases. So here I'm saying this framework will take a central role, which will facilitate end user to realize his intent towards the assurance. He could configure the system behavior dynamically and declaratively. So the day zero or day one configuration, generally we are capturing in the at the time of deployment. And once it gets deployed, now we need to take a certain action to meet the QoS, or we need to reconfigure our NFs, or some scale in, scale out, or different activities we need to perform actually. So that I'm trying to focus in here. And here actually I'm trying to bring one interesting scenario, like Kubernetes also offers Kubernetes autoscaler. So there actually we could do horizontal scaling, vertical scaling, and also we can add some more workloads. So different kinds of autoscalers are available. I mean, with different types are offered by the Kubernetes default add-ons. Sorry, with some add-ons we need to enable it, and we can actually use those autoscaler. But problem what we face, this is not tailored for multi-cluster environment. So currently it depends on our KPI parameter that is exposed by a single cluster. It has only the visualization of that single cluster. So it can take a decision based on those metrics only with by single cluster scenario, only in single cluster scenarios. But but when we go to the environment like a multi-cluster, so the complexity intensifies. Actually, there we need to take care about different a relationship between different NFs. Those are deployed in a multi-cluster environment, and that too in there'll be a potential difference in the workload characteristics. And also you will find that if certain NFs change, then that may impact the behavior of the other NFs. We need to do certain activities on different NFs. So so those complexity I'm trying to address in this framework. And yeah, so here we could clearly understand that Kubernetes autoscaler could not address the multi-cluster complexities. Okay, and that advantage we get in a Nephew, because Nephew has has a global picture. It is managing the multiple cluster across the multi-vendor environment or a multiple cluster environment. So it has that global view, right? So but we can actually use that global view or use that capability to bring out a framework which can take a very informed decision, and that will help us to bridge a gap between the user intent and the multi-cluster assurance in the multi-cluster environment. So that is a differentiating factor I'm actually visualizing that we can achieve by using the NIFU and by designing this assurance framework. And yeah, of course, I call it like it is a generic platform, and which will fulfill the different use cases. Like there, we can do the reconfiguration of OR and related network functions. We can realize the security assurance, or even scale in, scale out different kind of scenario. We can realize it. Actually, I had taken this reference from the work group too. So they have they also have the one user story on reconfiguring the OR and network function. So I just given the flavor like how the service assurance could fulfill their requirement. So that use case I cover also I covered. So that we'll see in the later part of our discussion. Okay. So yeah, till this point, any question like our feature overview? So just let me check any hands are there. Okay, I hope this problem, what we are trying to address by this framework is clear to everyone, right? Okay, I'll take this silence as a no, and I'll go further. So here, the stakeholder, I'm taking a telco DevOps who configure the service assurance related SLAs, who is responsible for configuring the SLA requirement over the multi-cluster environment, and who deploys the NF. Okay. And as part of the design consideration, I'm saying the framework enables end user to configure the day two activities. So it is just a API where end user can express its assurance related intent that he can express. And framework should able to configure the observability for the target NF. So yeah, I'll just open up the design also in further section. Is how we depend on the observability. But yeah, definitely we need to observe that NF and we need to take those KPI and take that decision, right? So framework should be able to configure the actor like operator or ML models to configure the NF or perform the action on the NF. So what in here I mean to say that we should able to deploy one actor in the system which is responsible for taking the day to related actions, like it could do scaling, traffic rerouting, or even the NF reconfiguration. So those kind of things this actor could do it. And the next one, the framework should expose the abstract model to the end user to hide the low level complexity. So this here I talked about the API. And yeah, here is the important thing to understand, like what assurance intent captures. And so what need to be observed and what when to correlate and what need to be done as part of the action. So actually this will get clear here in this diagram. So here the actor is that the DevOps who is responsible for configuring the SLA. Okay. And he creates one assurance intent. He provides to the service assurance controller. So here I just explained each responsibility. So the service assurance controller is the central point to facilitate configuration of assurance loop. So this guy is the assurance controller is responsible for creating the entire loop. So in order to create that service assurance loop, he needs what NF and I should observe and what to correlate, what action need to be done, right? So this information will be needed. So that he can go and talk to observability and say that in a cluster A, you need to observe something, cluster B, you need to observe something, and C, you have something. Okay. And our target enough where we would like to do a certain configuration, that should be also conveyed in that intent. Okay. So here the observability role is that it will configure different cluster. It configures the observation on different NFs that is spreaded across different cluster. Okay. So once observability configures it, and once the KPI getting generated, it will start getting pushed in the data lake. So data lake is again, it is a persistent storage for this KPI parameters. So it is storing it there. Okay, all the KPI parameters. So whenever it is needed, we can retrieve it. So currently, I'm saying that I'll provide certain conditions also to the observability. So when to start streaming the data across the actor pod. So the actor pod, actually, this guy is responsible to take action on the NF. Again, that will be created by the service assurance controller on a fly, on the need basis, or it contains the business logic. Okay. So business logic, he knows like what NF I need to configure or what action I need to do on certain situation. So that business logic is here in the actor pod, and that gets triggered only on the certain condition. A certain condition. The data stream is coming from the data lake. On again, the correlation will happen, and it will trigger the action on the NF. Okay. So here, I hope it's okay. Yeah, Tim, please go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick on the actor
Yep.
pod. I thought we had conversations about that particular piece of it, renaming it. I think some of the stuff that Wim was talking about. I thought we were that area of it wasn't. We were looking at modifying. So I just didn't.
Actually, yeah. I did the modification last time. Actually, I was calling it action pod, and now I modified to actor pod. Okay.
Okay, so now it's an actor pod, and what we said is that actor pod takes data from the data lake and does something, right? Makes a reference, does something to the NF directly, or what? I thought we said that.
Yeah, it will not do the directly on the NF. It's like I have put multiple thoughts here, like certain situation like where we know the business logic, we can directly communicate to NF. Otherwise, in the workload cluster, we can set up some kind of policy. So I have put different cases also. So that that we'll discuss later. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, thank you. So okay. So any other question on this diagram? This particular assumption of the whole architecture. Okay, I'll move further. So again, the prerequisite I have put like observability to avail the NF and the intra-related KPIs, and observability API to configure the observability on the deployed NF, and the package orchestration to deploy and manage the NF packages, and relationship between the high-level intent and the low-level resources. Actually, this last part is a little interesting, I would say, because I talked about like there are different high-level intents, right? Let's say if one high level intent is getting impacted, so we need to understand what other intents could impact, and we need to take that action. So you can now visualize the multi-cluster activities happening. Like one intent is getting impacted, like for example, AMF or ASMF is getting impacted, or even UPF is getting impacted. So definitely we need to do some kind of reconfiguration on the RAN side. So that relationship we need to understand and take an intelligent step there. So yeah, that I just put like a prerequisite. So there is another user story on the impact analysis. So that can help us here. And these steps I have written just now. We talked about that entire flow, right? So that step I captured it here. A user creates the assurance CR, and it has target NF, KPI parameter, conditions, actions. Those are conveyed by the end user, and the service assurance will create an actor pod, so that the image could be provided by the end user to for the assurance controller and could provide a default implementation. So it's like a business logic. Here I talked about the business logic that is captured in the actor pod. Okay. And finally, the actor pod will get deployed. It will receive the data stream from the data lake by configuring the observability. And finally, we will take a certain action. Actor pod will execute some certain actions. So so this is a flow. And actually, I have covered the different.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Hang on. So just
Team.
wanted to get a clarity on something, right?
Yeah.
So the service assurance controller configures observability to send the scroll down. You missed.
Okay, sure. Okay. Sorry.
I think it's in the text, right? So on your step 4,
Mhm.
step 4 says the service assurance controller
Mhm.
somehow configures the observability framework
Mhm.
to send the KPI parameter to the actor pod. I thought it would configure the actor pod to extract the KPI parameter from from the data lake, right?
Of course, that I understood. So I'm hoping that observability would provide one push mechanism, like they'll start pushing the data towards actor pod. Okay, so that could be pull mechanism also. That actor
But
pod
that means that line that you have between the data lake and the actor pod is now part of the observability framework. That's not shown.
Yeah, actually, it should be, because that is generally like in a Prometheus or any this kind of observability module, you could provide a pull mechanism also. Like I will provide some callback URL. So wherever data is available.
I'm just saying this. Scroll up. I was just trying to make sure that they know they have to provide it, right?
So shall I? Okay.
Scroll up to where your diagram is. Right?
Okay.
So instead of observability, you have the observability. The data lake is within the observability, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's all I'm saying is that you might want to.
Yeah. This one could be pull or push mechanism. I think we should.
But it's a responsibility of observability to provide you the API to say, I want you to push these KPIs from the data lake to this. So this action is observability. I'm just want to make sure that we're at, because right now I would assume, looking at this, that the service assurance controller configures the pod to figure out how to extract it, right? But you're not saying that in your step. Just a little picture problem. It sounds like.
Yeah, so that I'll just add comments there. Sure. Observability actually responsible for configuring the observability on the NF. Here I think clarified. It is responsible for configuring the observability on the given NF and the KPI parameters. And that data lake, it is persistent storage to keep recording KPI parameter and stream those parameters as per the request.
As per what request?
I think that we need to clarify.
The request from the observability framework, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That I'm just trying to make sure we get who's responsible, because that's the question the observability guys are going to say, oh, I need to supply this, so I need to. That's what I'm getting.
Yeah. But I'll need a comment from the observability folks also. So anyone from the observability group, if they can comment.
So data lake is ours. Collecting things is ours.
Yeah.
Exposing some sort of API so that we know, so we could, at the very least, it will be able to curate them and able to subscribe to something is ours.
Okay. Then it makes sense, right? The pull mechanism, push mechanism. You are pushing the data towards the actor pod.
Yeah, this is the framework we provide that. How we do it.
Okay.
Don't know yet, but yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stephen, for clarifying. Okay. So Tim, could I go ahead, or still you have any questions on here? Tim, are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry, I was speaking to mute. No, I'm
Yeah.
fine. I just wanted to make sure
Okay.
that you and the observability framework guys were in agreement on it. So go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, these comments are very important. Yeah, thank you. So as part of the acceptance criteria, I just put a very high level sentence here that we should able to configure the entire loop, and we should able to the actor should able to execute the action. So that I have put it. But yeah, use cases I have prepared in the further here actually. Okay. So I hope this is visible. Otherwise, I'll increase the font size. This diagram is it visible?
No, it is very small.
Okay, I'll try to increase. Oops.
And meanwhile, I also have a comment on, the acceptance criteria should be whatever the service assurance content is realized, right? Means whatever the.
Yes. Actually, Miss, we are proposing a framework and the different use case when we create, right? So based on that, we'll put the acceptance criteria on those use cases. So currently I talked about the framework, right? So that's why I put it very generic that we should able to create that assurance loop, and the actor should able to execute the action. So that very high level I put it. Okay. Yeah, actually use cases I have in a further section. So I hope now this is visible to everyone. Could someone please confirm if it's readable or
Still very small. Maybe put as 200 or something.
okay?
Yeah. Better. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, this is the entire flow I have put, like what I was describing. Like as a step one, we deploy any NF and the package controller, and the nephew controller will take care about the deployment. Actually, here in this user story, I simplified our previous discussion where I was going through the different package version, trying to modify it. So those complexities I avoided and tried to simplify it once. Okay. So once the package is deployed, we create our service assurance CR. So that carries the information like what need to be observed, when to observe, what action need to be taken. Okay. And so as a part of the step 3, and once that's created, we will just go to the Kube API server. We will try to pull those all the package resources or target package resources, and try to understand what is the exact instance where we need to observe. Where is the where exactly that cluster or the NF? So those details we'll try to retrieve it, and as part of the step 6. Just before configuring the observability, before the step number 6, we create a actor pod. Okay, here in the step number 6, I have put the star mark because I would like to create this actor pod either in the management cluster and the workload cluster based on the use case requirement. So here, actually, if we put the actor pod in the workload cluster, we could do some immediate action on the workload cluster, and if we could do immediate action. But if we keep in the management cluster, that might not be a real-time action, right? But yeah, certain use cases still I'm not clear, like which scenarios could use the actor pod in the management cluster. So, but yeah, that option I kept it open. It might possible that we are performing some kind of machine learning. So that time we should do on the management cluster, and try to get the cluster wide KPI stream and try to do machine learning here. So those kind of aspects we can do in the future. So that flavor also I have in the further slide, further section. So yeah, just for now, just understand like we can create the actor pod in the management cluster as well in workload cluster based on the use cases. Okay. Once the actor pod where the business logic relies is deployed, now we'll go to the observability. We'll configure the observation on those NF or those KPI parameter, and observability is completely responsible to choose what type of mechanism it would like to take to start observing on the NF. So that decision observability could take it. Okay. So once the NF start as a step number 8, once the NF starts sending the KPI parameter, it will get populated in the data lake, and as the previous communication we discussed also, if the actor pod available in the workload cluster, it can also subscribe for that data stream from the data lake. So that is also possible. So once we receive those data stream, we could try to take some we could perform correlation, and we could do one informed decision and take one action on the NF or the workload cluster. Also we could take it like rerouting the data traffic. So those things also we could take it. So this is the overall picture, like how the workflow would happen. Okay. And the second here, actually I talked about actor pod placement in the management in a workload cluster. So that idea I was talking about, right? We can place in the workload cluster or in the management cluster. So that idea I was talking here, and I'll go further. Okay, so I'll now come to the use case part. So I have actually put the 4 use cases. Let me minimize it first. Okay, so I have put some 4 kind of use cases. Like last discussion, we were discussing around the default auto scaler that is provided by Kubernetes, horizontal pod auto scaler. So what exactly it do? If you take a single cluster environment, so that this auto scaler, just assume like it's another operator. It actually starts subscribing to those metrics, and based on those metrics, it applies one algorithm to perform the scaling. So a simple diagram is here. Just avoid this actor pod first. So this everything is in a workload cluster. Okay. So in the workload cluster, HPA will go to the metric service. It will gate those parameters, and based on that, it will perform the scaling. And again, like those scaling you can control by the some certain policies. So here the problem that we discussed initially, it has a visualization of only single cluster. But in the NetWeaver, we need to take more informed decision by a cluster-wide or a multi-cluster wide based on the multi-cluster wide KPI parameters or NF relationship. So those things we need to think around it. And currently I see that HPA is only limited to scaling. The action is generally I saw the scaling. But yeah, if anyone knows, like there are certain different kind of action by HPA, so please feel free to comment. But only I observe that it takes the scaling action. So this we could work this actually we can improvise. So here I talked about we can improvise this default horizontal pod auto scaler. We could provide a mechanism which have the cluster wide view, and based on that we create certain policies to control this HPA. So this is a very simple use case. So already this one is the existing one, HPA in the Kubernetes. And with the actor pod, we are adding a one intelligence that comes from the NF relationship that is distributed across multiple clusters. So that policy we could control it, or we can configure the HPA based on the user intent. So that is the simplistic case. Actually, I thought it to realize this assurance part. Okay. So any question on this first use case? This is one simple approach I talked about the scaling as part of the NF healing. Okay. Okay, so the second one actually I made little complicated, where instead of horizontal auto scaler, I try to put one operator. So that is that would be provided by the vendor itself, or actually this problem. What I was thinking, horizontal autoscaler actually has a static algorithm that we will not able to change it, right? But certain scenarios comes like in the multi-cluster environment, autoscaler will not fit our requirement, right? So in that kind of scenarios, we will put one specialized operator. Okay. So again, that we could place it by either service assurance or by using the NF deployment, deployment by the package deployment itself, and the actor would help us to configure as part of the day 2 activities. Okay, so this is the second scenario which we can make a little complicated, and again here we have the more informed decision for scaling based on the multi-cluster view. Okay, so this is the second scenario that I was thinking to demonstrate it. And again, it is the improvise on the case one, where we had the HPA implemented by the Kubernetes, but here now I'm putting the operator that is provided by as part of the deployment. So any questions on these two use cases?
Where will be the operator?
Operator, this entire thing is in a workload cluster actually. So like currently, for example, in a for UPF, SMF, we have the free 5GC operator, right? So that take care about the entire deployment, like it understands the NF deployment, it deploys it, right? So similarly, there would be some operator who manages the scaling of those pod. For example, let's say in a UPF, suddenly we observe that the performance of UPF is getting degraded, or there is a high load. We found that. Those KPI parameters is received by observability, and it will stream towards the actor pod, and the actor pod understands that, okay, now I need to scale the UPF, right? So in that way, he will create some resources so that it will express its intent to the operator that now you scale it. Okay, and again, that scaling is controlled by policies. Also, that complexity also we could add it, and again, like we should actually the actor pod has the context of multi-cluster KPIs, so that we should understand. Like it has the global view, the business logic here that help us for the scaling. Okay. I hope these two use cases are clear.
Right. There can be multiple operators in multiple workload cluster from the action pod.
Yeah, in this scenario, actually, I made it very simple, like a single operator is there. Again, it depends on the deployment, what operator it is using it. So we can make it more complex also, actually. Okay.
Okay, and this operator can be same as the deployment operator?
Of course, like a free 5GC is there, right? So let's say we have another operator. Okay, I'll just go back in this example so that you will be able to understand. Apart from the free 5GC, we could also configure the HPA there. So that takes care about the replicas. It maintains the replica in the deployment. Okay, based on the metrics. So this is one separate operator running in the workload cluster. So that means we could have the two operators, free 5GC and HPA. HPA is responsible for managing the scaling, and the free 5GC for the deployment. So that scenario also we could have it. So I hope Vardha, I'm able to answer your question.
Right. Yeah. Please.
Okay. So let's go to make it a little more complicated. The scenario is a NF reconfiguration. So that is getting discussed in the work group 2. So that actually what happens. Okay, I'll just make it a little bigger. Okay, so in that scenario, actually what happens, we deploy NF as a ODU. Okay, so in the ODU, actually what they are doing, ODU generates the PRB related KPI parameter. So PRB is physical resource block, means how much physical in that how much means like a physical resource we are consuming when we are sending the data or communicating over the RAN. So how much communicating over the radio. So how much physical resource we are taking. Suppose let's say so it will start giving those parameters to the data link, those KPI parameters. Okay, again that is based on our configuration to observability what to take it. So we configured the observability to take the PRP related information in the data lake, and later the actor pod will retrieve this PRP either by pull or push mechanism, and check that if the PRP utilization is more than 50%, I need to reconfigure the bandwidth. Okay, so actually this arrow I have given the wrong. This arrow will go towards the ODU. So whenever the PRP utilization increases, I need to reconfigure the bandwidth in the ODU based on by using the telnet protocol currently. So the actor pod will have the business logic. Our logic is how to communicate to ODU with reconfiguring the bandwidth parameter. So that scenario also we could do it. So yeah. So like initially we were discussing like this arrow, right? You remember? Yeah. Here the actor pod is directly talking to the NF, right? So it is something like that scenario that we understand the NF. So we are directly reconfiguring the NF the ODU directly. It's a bandwidth by using the telnet protocol. So actually, yeah, this so you can understand this framework is facilitating to bridge the user intent at the step number 1 with the step number 10, where we are reconfiguring the NF, right? So that is the.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
I have got one question. How many you estimated it will be the actor pod? Because this actor pod is created each time you just create service assurance CR, yes, for NF. So
yes,
it could be many, yes, actor pods in the workload clusters, yes.
Yes. So when we create the service assurance CR, right? So the step number 6 you are seeing, right? Step number 6. So that is the place where we are creating the actor pod, because actor pod understands what I need, which KPI parameter I need to correlate, and also it has a business logic. What action I need to execute as part of this condition.
Yes, but for a special NF function, yes, only, or for this actor pod has got this logic only for a special, network function, or this special network function, yes.
Actually, what I tried to cover here as part of the step number 1, a user tells to the service assurance controller what action need to be taken. So what action need to be taken? So he could provide a Docker image or any container image, so that we could directly take that image and deploy it here. Okay. So that captures the entire business logic. So that it has it. And assume that you are not able, you want to use some default capabilities, or you don't have any certain images for let's say take example of this scaling, right? Suppose you don't have any implementation, So that time what we'll do, we will observe that the user did not provide any action for the scaling. So that time we could use the HPA. Again, it's like still we need to prepare the correct workflow here, like in which scenarios we need to use the HPA. But of course, we could devise some kind of default implementation also to handle certain scenarios. So Ivona, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. So
Yes, yes,
are
correct.
you okay?
Yes, okay, fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, so this is the one scenario which we can cover for RAN assurance as part of the work group 2. And the case 4, where I talk about the futuristic goal, where I'm saying the actor pod itself is a ML model. Okay, now you understand that. It's like here I referred one research paper also. So there they compared, instead of using autoscaler, let's deploy one model which is done by the reinforcement learning. So that also we can think we could do it like a actor, instead of actor pod, we will put the ML model, and the ML model will help us to decide how much replicas we need to maintain. And the benefit of what I visualize here, the model which we are building here, that is built by the KPI parameters collected across the multi-cluster environment or multiple cluster. So this model, I think that currently I just use for the scaling, right? So that could help us to achieve multiple use case scenarios. So that I'm visualizing. So this is the ultimate goal, where we should able to place the ML model, and the ML model will help us to take informed decision, and those are based on some kind of deep learning ML algorithm. And again, the important part, the trained on multi-cluster cluster-wide network APIs. So yeah, so this is the 4 use cases I have proposed it, and some requirement I put, like what we need to develop it. So yeah, Tim, I'm seeing your hand is raised. Yeah, Tim, please go ahead.
So I just want to make sure that, again, I think we talked about this before. So particularly when you start talking about the AL model, we got to make sure that this actor pod doesn't become too monolithic, right?
Yeah.
Right now it does, it invokes the recommendation, right, that comes out of the AL.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're doing. That's a future goal, but I think we might have to do some refactoring, right? Of that actor pod when we want to include stuff
of course. Yeah.
AI and recommendations.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I just put like it's a very it's an ultimate goal. That's what we would like to realize. Am I clear? Yeah. Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible. Yeah, you were clear to me. I understand.
Yeah.
I was just sending back that I think there's probably some more refactoring that we'll have to do with that actor pod.
Yeah, of course, Tim. Yeah. Actually, I'm visualizing this actor pod is some business logic. So that could be some static logic, or some rule-based logic, or in the future we could see ML models there. So that way I'm visualizing the actor pod. Okay. So I hope we are clear, or do we? If you have any question, we can go through it. And yeah, please please go ahead. If anyone have any questions, see any gaps in this proposal. Okay, I'll take this silence as a good to go for the review.
This is what you've been reviewing with WIM, right? So WIM has got the the SA controller, stuff like that. So it's
yeah, of course. I called it here the service assurance controller. It could be implemented as a separate controller or realized in a distributed way, enhancing the existing module. So I talked in a very high level, like what should be the responsibility of this particular module. And yeah, implementation again, we need to deep dive and need to understand what could be the best approach to implement it. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, team. And I hope this as a agreement to go ahead for the work group 3 review. Okay. And yeah, thank you everyone for reviewing it. And please feel free to add your comments if you review it offline. We'll try to address those gaps also. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Subhash, probably similar to Tim, what he has done for WG2. Maybe we need
Yep.
to put in the SIG release and SIG automation, and network architecture. If you see his thing,
Yeah.
yes, that he guys, you guys can look into it offline so that they need not come directly tomorrow.
Okay, sure. Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Vardha, for your comments. And then now we have another 10 minutes and we'll jump on our second item. So where we wanted to discuss the requirement for the observability API. So Marcin, would you like to take this one, or Stephen, if you would like to go ahead? Marcin or Stephen?
When it comes to me, I'm not really sure if I can take over this one because I couldn't attend the previous meeting, and I'm not really sure if there are any concrete requirements for the observability API, which is why I put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I have some thoughts. Like this particular step is where we talk about what we need to observe that. So currently we don't have any documentation, like how we could configure it and how we could configure the callbacks between actor pod and the data lake, right? So this too is the point where I see there's a relationship between service assurance and observability. So I think this requirement we could discuss. It's like how the observability is going to expose those APIs, so that we could discuss actually. So any thoughts you would like to add? Stephen or
more importantly, is we want to know what the requirement is. Right?
Stephen, your voice is very faint actually. We are not able to hear.
Okay, let me try a different headphone.
Yeah. Yes, Stephen. Are there, Stephen? Able to hear us? Okay. And also we could discuss like what information we could provide on this particular interface so that observability folks could work on it. So that also we can discuss.
Yeah, so we obviously are getting requirement from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're not at the point where we know what the API looks like yet. So we're gathering use cases. We would like to know how specific this is. Obviously, again, we're building a framework to make sure that it's an interface where you can hopefully construct your own needs and things. But then it's great to just want to know what's your use case. It sounds like you're saying you want to subscribe to a certain type of metrics for a particular instance of UPF.
Yeah,
that's the type of things.
Yeah, actually, I had documented 3 use cases. Just let's say avoid this the ML part. So these 3 use cases are there, and I'm seeing this one could be a simple, the simplest one of it. Like we could collect the PRP utilization from the ODU. So the ODU is from the OAI. So there we could get a help to collect this parameters, and we can directly populate on the data lakes. So that we could try actually this use case, I feel. Otherwise, the other scenario I have, we could generate the load related parameters from the UPF, and that we can capture and use it for the replication or scaling. That also we can have it. What do you think?
Load informations as of CPU utilizations and memory utilizations, or
right,
how much?
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
right. Those are the infra
that you should be
related.
able to get.
Yeah.
You should be able to get actually through Prometheus actually in that case. But your action pods are you want your action pods running on
workload cluster.
On the workload cluster. Okay.
Right.
We don't have a Prometheus running there for sure.
Yeah. So last time we were discussing, right? Is it possible to get those KPI parameters?
Yeah, because so there are two things, right? So at this point, because we at the point of the workload cluster, we're thinking more of the operator's needs. So the operator needs to decide whether or not it's meeting the intent. So we are at that moment we're not storing. We're just like some sort of streaming interface where they can subscribe and grab. If you want to query something at a particular time to a informations from time A to time B, that's probably only on management cluster.
We could try this scenario also, like putting the actor pod in the management cluster and try to push some kind of configuration to the workload cluster. So that also we can give a try. Yeah. Later, we will understand like what complexity involves if we place the actor pod in the workload cluster. So that we can check later part. But yeah, of course, these two possibilities are there: actor pod in workload cluster or management cluster. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we have to at some point we have to dig in a little deeper on the use case and see how observability can help.
Yeah, of course. Okay.
Probably not within the next 4 minutes, but yeah.
yeah. Of course, yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Question.
Yeah. If it is on the other case, enough reconfiguration, I think even OAI, Sagar needs to be involved.
Yes, of course, yeah. Yes.
Okay, yeah. I think Marcin as well.
Just one more note from my side when it comes to horizontal scaling of network functions. It might just be that I'm not up to date, but since Kubernetes services use round robin between the available endpoints by default, I think that it won't be as easy as using HPA for all NFs.
Yes. Actually, the top idea I was trying to bring, like HPA has only context about the single cluster. And by using the network, we are trying to bring one context which is cluster wide. We would like to take advantage of KPI parameter. Those are spreaded across multiple cluster, and then we'll try to take some informed decision, or try to create the resource which HPA understand. So that will involve what replication we need to do it, and what is like max, mean. So those policies we could set it. So that resource actually we could create from the actor pod for the HPA. And in order to make it a little more complex, the second scenario I was talking about, instead of HPA, we have but another operator which manages the replication.
So we actually talked about that during the SDK meeting, that the operator, the NF operator, needs to be evolved a little bit. One of the things is if you just create a pod, let's say 35GC, because that's the only one I know. If you create another UPF pod and want to make it look like it's just one UPF, it's just creating another UPF pod by itself on the same cluster, for example. It's not just creating another pod. Obviously, it's creating another three other secondary interfaces, and then then each of them lists out IP addresses and VLANs. And that and then you kind of make them look like it was one if that's the case, you start using IUPF and then hiding things in the back. So yeah, it's we're thinking the operator, the lifecycle management of the network functions, is probably going to be done by the operator. It's the HVA can create another pod. We can do replicate set change, but then all the other surrounding infrastructure work that needs to be done by an operator, because it differs from vendor to vendor. On other cases, if you have SRIOV, you would have to do SRIOV related things. You have to make sure that the nodes has enough VF. Well, I mean, the SRIOV scheduler, the annotations that were done by SRIOV operators would annotate whether or not you have any VFs left, but it's more or less like policies that were set up prior to that. So so all the things are more an infra piece. I think somewhere we have to converge between us, observability SDK, NF2 infra, and then providing a framework where we think that the operator would be able to easily consume that kind of changes. But yeah, I'm hopefully that will be done on the southbound, so that service assurance would be able to take advantage of it.
So actually, actor pod will create those resources which will consumed by the operator in order to manage.
So I wouldn't agree too much. I would think this is more a vendor problem. So I would think you probably want to probably give it to the vendor operators and have them understand that because on a commercial, I'm pretty sure for Samsung too, UPF it's more than just one pod. And then maybe one of the pods owns an N4 and the other pod may owns an N6. They may not be in the same pod that owns the same interfaces. So if you're scaling just one of the pods because you only need it on the N6 part, on the data network facing part, then that being the case, the vendor operator is the only one who knows. Do I have to create another NAD? Do I have to? How is that set up? Should I schedule it onto a particular node? That kind of thing. Would probably be an NF operator part. If the actor to me is probably more like, oh, I detected that maybe it's time to create another one. And then you trickle that into the NF operators or infra operators and whatever. Would be doing the work. So that would be probably a little more the model than picturing, instead of let's have an actor pod does everything across different infra, across different vendors. That sounds like too much.
Okay,
anyway,
Stephen. Okay, actually,
1 minute
over. So so thank you everyone. So I'll take this user story to work group 3, and feel free to add your comments if you identify any gap. We will try to cover it, and I'm looking towards the collaboration so that we can deliver this use case and make Nepio more successful. Thank you everyone. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.